welcome to another episode of Inside the Industry Unfiltered with myself, Adam Smith. Delighted to welcome this man on the podcast.
Hello,
Describe
Smithy.
him as an entertainer, an influencer, comedian.
Yeah.
It is Max Fosh. Anything I've left out there, mate?
No. I'm glad you didn't start going with the negative ones at the end there.
Are there any negatives for you?
Oh, I don't know. Posh twat, you can bleep that out.
I would never refer to you as that in a million years.
A lot of the comments do normally.
Not on this, they won't.
Not on
hopefully.
this.
But you get it in early. I've always been told if you can laugh at yourself,
get it in
one
early.
of the best things.
Yeah.
It was the one thing I asked you before, and is what do I refer to you as? Because you are sort of dabbing your hand in a lot of things.
I put my fingers in every pie that's available, really. Just any bakery that opens is like, hey, can I stick a digit in? So yeah, I would probably do.
Sounds a bit weird. That
As soon as I said that, so I'm trying to do it all really. YouTuber, comedian, writer, entertainer, just trying to make people just laugh one video at a time.
You do make people laugh. I will give you that. There's a lot to get into in this podcast. Let's start where it all started for you, growing up, your childhood.
Oh yeah.
Tell us about your upbringing.
In the rough hills of Notting Hill Gate, West London.
But how did you survive that?
Yeah, it was tough. Yeah, deciding whether mummy or daddy's going to pick you up in the range each day. That was difficult. No, yeah, so I grew
challenging
up,
times.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to be fair, I was packed off to boarding school at 13.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the posh version of daycare. But they just leave you there for many years, from the age of 13 to 18. So yeah, I grew up in West London.
Nice part. Nice part.
Yeah. First ever football game I went to was at QPR at Loftus Road.
Come on,
it was 1999. It was QPR versus Bury.
Okay.
And QPR, I seem to remember, won 4-0 against Bury. And I remember I cried because, and I quote, felt really sorry for Bury. To be fair, if I'd known what was coming to them, to Bury later in their history, I would not got so upset.
It's sad what happened to Bury, actually, on a serious note. But it's I haven't heard that before, to cry when the away team loses 4-0.
Yeah, I was 4, to be fair, so maybe... So maybe you should go too harsh on my old self. But yeah, I grew up in West London, and then at 13, I went to Harrow School, which was a
very nice school,
a boarding school in Harrow on the Hill, just northwest London, and it was an interesting experience. And I think that often old Harrovians, as they are called, especially what kind of ones in the public eye, sometimes kind of say bad things or negative things about the school. And look, I'm not interested in doing that. Okay. I definitely had some challenging times at school, but there were also some experiences that I had that very much kind of shaped my future and what I kind of ended up doing.
When you say challenging times, what do you mean?
I think it's difficult because when you go to a boarding school at the age of 13, you live in a boarding house with 70 or 80 other boys who are aged between 13 to 18. You've never been in that environment before.
Yeah.
There's boys at all different stages of development, and you have to learn the way of kind of survival quite quickly as to like the hierarchy and how you should behave and where your place in the pecking order is. And that's a difficult thing for a 13-year-old who's just been like sent away from home to do. And you live at school for kind of 3 or 4 weeks at a time, and then you go home for one weekend called an exeat, and then you kind of repeat. So I think that I struggled quite a lot in my early years, but I think they were I learned some good lessons as well.
When you said you struggled, were you struggling did you know you were struggling at the time, or do you only know looking back on it that there were difficult times?
I just didn't. There weren't any. I didn't really find my people at the school. I think that was to do with like my year, and as a result, I'm not in contact with anybody from my time at school.
No one at all?
No, I mean maybe one person.
Okay.
But I don't keep in contact because I think we just, and then when it was when I went to university, it was like, okay, these are my people. These are the kind of people I really like to hang out with. And so I just struggled because I didn't quite get it right. My dad had been to the school before, and he was an incredible sportsman at the school, and there was still this very much this talk about how good he was even 40 years later, because a lot of the teachers stay there for basically their entire career. Right. So from the moment I arrived, there's a lot of conversation about, are you Matthew Fosh's boy?
So you felt pressure to follow in your dad's footsteps?
I think so. Yeah. But I think that I grew out of that quite quickly. I just got quite frustrated that anyone would, like, a lot of people just want to talk about my dad and compare me against my dad.
Really? Because he was a first-class cricketer, right?
Yeah,
so he played at an amazing level.
Yeah, he kind of played for Essex. He opened the batting with Graham Gooch when he was 19.
Wow.
Went on a Young England tour to the West Indies when he was kind of in his 20s, and at 21 he retired. And everybody.
Why did you retire that?
I think because he looked around and saw the sport. I mean, I'd probably speak on behalf of him here, but I think he looked around and saw that maybe he didn't see himself in the future that was presented to him, which was kind of professional cricket for the next 10, 15 years of his life. And he wanted to go off and do different things. And so he went into insurance and finance world. But at school in rugby and cricket, he was kind of both like incredibly good. And so I luckily kind of got a little bit of that from the cricket side. From the rugby side, absolutely not. I absolutely hated rugby.
Yeah. Cricket was your forte, less so rugby.
Yeah, because I was at Harrow and Eton. There's a game called the Lord's Match, which is I think it's the second oldest fixture in the world, where Harrow and Eton play each other at Lord's, at the home of cricket.
Wow.
And it's the only cricket match in the world where the fans are separated.
Is that right?
The
only cricket match in the world.
You can't trust 16-year-old posh boys to behave themselves when they're
so in the Ashes, when the peak of the powers happen at Lord's, England v Australia, they're fine.
They're all mingled together.
But you can't have Harrow.
But Bertie and Rupert, no, we can't be doing with that.
They won't get on.
They will not get on. And so I know
what you mean about Rupert. You've got to keep an eye on him.
You do, Roops. I know Roops.
Especially after a few beers. Anyway, we divulge.
But yeah, so my granddad had played in this match. My dad had played this match. My uncle had played this match. And I was 16 and I was in the C team. And I was bowling left arm spin, and if anybody knows, and I batted 11. So I wasn't exactly top of the list in terms of people who were going to get into the team. And I was going to leave school. I was going to leave my GCSE when I was 16 and go elsewhere. But there was this part of me that really wanted to play in the Harrow Eton game. And so I said to myself, right, I'm going to train every single day of the winter. So I did that, and over the winter I went down to the net every day and really worked on my bowling. And I got to a place where I think the coaches then took pity on me because they'd seen me come down so often that the first 11 coaches invited me to pre-season purely as a net bowler, purely as someone just to be in and around the squad, just to as someone who could bowl at the batsman. And then I weirdly got a chance to play in this pre-season, and I got five wickets and stayed in the team, and then played at Lord's twice.
So you played in the fixture?
Yeah, I played in the fixture twice.
That's quite a cool story in terms of if you believe in something, practice and try hard enough, you can achieve that goal.
Absolutely, and that was talking about like a lesson that I brought forward from school into university, and now with what I do in YouTube, it's like if you want to work hard enough, then absolutely anything is possible.
I like that story. And did you win?
We won once and we lost once, so I got the full range of emotion.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, so it's interesting you say that, a lot of positive and negatives then with that experience. Did you have the straw hats?
Yeah, we got straw hats, straw the boaters. Yeah, we dressed like penguins on Sundays. We have to say every single time we pass a teacher, you have to off your cap to the teacher and say sir.
Okay.
So there's genuinely all sorts.
So a range of emotions that you experienced, it's fair to say, sort of childhood and through school. You left school quite early, is that right?
Well, I left school at 18 just in normal time. Yeah.
And was your plan then to go into work prior to before you went to
Well, obviously
university?
I did the obligatory gap year that all posh boys and girls do, which is when you kind of sit there for a year after school. You're like, right, what the hell am I going to do?
Yeah.
I got a couple of jobs. I worked I was chief admin officer at Woucher.
Right.
Get a wow a day at woucher.co.uk.
What does that involve?
I mean, I remember I just got a job just doing the most boring basic admin job, and I remember asking them what my title was, and they were like, I don't know, you can choose yourself. So I just decided to make myself the chief admin officer. I was just doing very basic stuff on a computer software, but I worked at Woucher for 3 months, and I knew I was going to Newcastle Uni, but I didn't know I was going to go for economics and finance. I thought, right, I'll go into the city, or I'll do kind of what everyone else around me was doing. And I did an internship that Daddy got me in an insurance company, and I remember looking around, being like, "Is this it? Is this what we at school everyone was talking about, so excited to do?"
Right.
It was like to
and this
go
is your gap year.
And this was my gap year when I was 18. I was like, "Is this it?" And I kind of thought, "Oh God, this is I don't enjoy this at all."
Right.
And so when I got to university, I was just absolutely hell-bent on trying everything. So I joined the Theatre Society, I joined hospital radio, any society. I joined something called the 20-Minute Society, which is where you sign up and they take your number, and anytime they can send you a text to say you've got to be here in 20 minutes, and it's a social. So I was just kind of I was experiencing university and just trying to do everything that I could.
Yeah.
And that kind of proved to be quite a lucky break, because that's when I started to realise I quite liked broadcasting or entertaining.
Yeah. And you quickly realised from that internship, am I right in thinking that wasn't the
Yeah,
career
well, I
for you?
realised that the city was not for me. I was just basically collecting pies for lunch every day.
So put you off it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the university stage then. So you had your gap year. You go to Newcastle
I went
University.
to Newcastle Uni, yeah.
Okay. And you changed degrees, right? You did economics and finance and then changed to English
literature.
So what was the reason behind that?
I remember being about 6 months into my economics degree. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I hate this. This is so crap. So I then spoke to a few friends of mine who I did like amateur theatre with, and they all did English literature. And so I said, great, I'll do English literature. I don't know why I had the kind of like the balls to do this, but I walked down to the English school. I was like, hi, I'd like to do your degree, please. And they said, great. Okay, what did you get in your English A level? I was like, I didn't do English A level. Right. They said, well, you can't join our faculty if that's the case. And I said, well, how about this? I started pitching deals to them. They're like, who are you?
Do you want a voucher?
Yeah. I can get you in at voucher if you like.
Yeah.
I remember saying, if I get a 2-1 in my economics first year, it will prove to you that I'm a good student. I'll work hard for your faculty. Clever. And I think she was just like bowled over by the fact that I'd come in with the arrogance to just give a pitch, and so she just kind of said, "Fine, okay." And this was about 3 weeks before the exams.
Yeah.
And previously, I just thought, right, you just need to get 40% to pass, and now I suddenly need to get 60%.
Oh yeah, and you're starting a new degree, so the pressure's on straight away.
I had to suddenly find 20% out of nowhere, having coasted for 9 months, and I ended up getting like 59.7, so like 0.3% off.
Oh.
And I went back to English school. I was like, please, and they were like, fine, come on.
It's a lot of blagging.
So much blagging from an early age. And so that's when I started doing English literature for 3 years. So I started again. I started back in first year.
I'm seeing a lot of, because I watch a lot of your content on YouTube actually with the blagging and the confidence. I'm seeing a lot of your early self in this. Is it helping to explain some of the videos? Yeah,
absolutely.
Now?
I mean, I've always been doing stupid. Like in my first week at uni, I realised that the desk in my room was the exact width of the lift in my halls of residence. And so like one night with me and some friends, we didn't go out just at midnight. We just moved my entire desk, like it's just screeched into the lift. Got my books, my plant, my laptop, my chair, everything, and moved it into the lift. I even put posters on the walls either side. And then as people were coming back from nights out from like 1 or 2 in the morning, the lift would open. I'd like, what are you doing? Get out. And so I was known as Lift Boy for many years.
Boy.
Yeah, for about 6 weeks at uni. So that was my legacy at uni. So
What a legacy.
And
just to confirm, you just said that was instead of going out with friends on a night out. Wow.
Yeah, I just like,
I want to be on a night out with.
I don't want to talk to girls. No, thank you. My lift is the perfect size. My desk is the perfect size of the lift. So that's kind of what I was doing. I've always kind of been doing these stupid things. Yeah. So I guess it was you know. Of course, I was going to go into what I ended up getting into.
That's really interesting. So I've got a really good insight and basis of your sort of intelligence and your sort of
intelligence is the one way of putting it.
But your sort of education is what I was going to say with school and with university. So I want to ask about the other side of your university, because you did a lot of presenting, as you said. So you did. It was hospital radio, student radio.
Yes,
was that where it started for you?
Yeah, so student radio. I joined NSR, which is Newcastle Student Radio. And I realised I got my own show. And I was like, God, I've got my own show on student radio. It's
massive
amazing.
at the time, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
You've done
big.
nothing.
You're excited about
before,
it. And I then found out that in the studio there was a plug-in into the computer that showed you the amount of live listeners that you had. And I remember logging on one day and I was like, right, here we go. What we're looking at, 100?
Yeah.
And I had one listener,
wow.
which was upsetting considering both my mum and my dad said they were tuning in to listen. So one of them let me down there. So I did that for kind of 6 months, and then I craved something a little bit more professional. So I found out about hospital radio, which was, for those who don't know, like hospital radio is a really integral part of like the community in basically in every hospital around the country, where they'll have a radio station that serves the local community, talking about local things. And so there was a hospital radio station called Radio Tyneside that did all the hospitals in the northeast. Oh, wow. And I got a volunteer job there, and then got my own show for late nights, and then over kind of 3 years just constantly worked my way up until I did the breakfast show. I did very nearly get fired from hospital radio once.
Why?
I one morning I played Highway to Hell by AC/DC during my show.
In a hospital radio?
I didn't think about it until I got a call of like, Max, you need to come into the studio, we need to talk about something quite serious. I was like, what have I done? He's like, what did you play this morning? Like, I can't remember. He pulled up the log sheet. He was like, you played Highway to Hell. Do you think that's appropriate? And my argument was,
oh no,
my argument was that it was on the system. It was already on the system.
Right.
And so, no, I got a bit of a slap on the wrist. But it was there where I really kind of learn how to structure a show or how to present, and I was very lucky to win a couple of awards at the prestigious HBA Hospital Broadcasting Association annual do.
Tough awards to win.
You've got to go there. It's a tough place to win away.
Tough place to go.
And I think I won Best Newcomer. And the awards due that year were in Bolton. I won it.
We joke though, but if I think back to my present, I mean, I started as a runner at Sky, then became assistant producer, associate, building up to become a presenter. And when you get your presenter's contract, it's a real sort of satisfaction of the graft that you put in. And although we're joking, actually at the time to win Best Newcomer when you've never done any presenting before must have been a really proud moment.
I was like, oh my God, because I was obsessed with looking at, I'm sure you were the same, but looking at presenters that I admired. So
100%.
Nick Grimshaw, Greg James, Terry Wogan, Graham Norton, all these guys, and thinking, what did they do? How did they get where they are? And they all of them started at Hospital Radio. Almost all of them won an award at the HBA or were recognised within their community. So when I won that, I was like, here we go. The offers are going to come flying in here. And I think I got one demo reel with BBC Radio Newcastle.
Yeah.
And at the time I didn't get the job. At the time I couldn't understand why I didn't get the job. But now with the benefit of hindsight, I obviously went into a local radio station in Newcastle sounding how I sound. They're like, welcome back to BBC Radio Newcastle. We've got Max here. Hello, nice to see you all. Of course I didn't get the job.
Yeah, it didn't help that you had the Harrow straw hat on whilst presenting.
Yeah. I went full tails. And so I didn't get like the offers didn't come flooding in after I won that award. And I kind of thought, well, what? I thought I've done...
you thought you'd done the graph?
I was looking at it in a bit of in a way that you do at school. It was like, I've done everything you've asked me to, Mr. Teacher, therefore, can I have the reward, please?
It's a very subjective industry in that sense, actually. Because someone could rate you, someone else might not.
Absolutely. And so that's when... This was my last year. I had one more year at uni. And one thing I'm very proud of myself for doing at uni was you have those 4 years or 3 years to just try things where the stakes are so low. Like, I see kind of mates of mine who, once they've graduated and they've got jobs, they want to try something they've always been passionate about. But then it's so much more difficult because you've got rent to pay and you've got kind of a social expectation for you to be doing certain things. Whereas at uni, like you can just kind of mess about and try
time
things.
On your hands at uni.
I think
that's a great point to make actually for anyone watching this or listening on whatever platforms they are consuming this on, is that actually, if they are of that age group, to go out and try things, especially that uni age. I wish I'd learned a language or an instrument while I was at uni because I had so much time on my hands, and it was just you do end up just playing computer games, playing football, going out a lot, which is great.
I think that's important. I think that is
really
important.
important. But actually, the time aspect is a really valid point that you make.
Because otherwise, you kind of get to kind of 24, 25, and thought, oh, I wish I got into try and get into footy, and then you're like, oh, well, I probably should have done that at uni. So I was very grateful for myself for putting in that time, and it was actually my last year because that I wasn't getting any radio work, or there wasn't any look of any radio work on the horizon, that I started making videos on YouTube.
Yeah, what I think's really quite inspirational actually about your story, which I think is that I always think of you as someone that's been very proactive in your career. So, and tell me if this is wrong, but am I right in thinking you didn't apply to be one of the presenters on the uni TV channel because they already had enough? So because they had enough presenters, you decided to do content on your own YouTube channel, and that's where it started. Yeah,
so I saw that the Uni TV Society was doing like a interviewing students on nights out kind of thing on YouTube, and I remember watching them and thinking, oh, I'd like to do that. And so I reached out to them. They're like, sorry, no, we've got our presenters. Fair enough. Who am I? So I just thought, well, it's in public, so I could just do it myself and put it on Facebook. So that's kind of what I did. And I was very privileged with the time that I had at university to kind of like, I was very lucky to come from a background where I didn't have to work. And so my time was really free. And so I thought, I'm going to try and make the most out of this time as much as I can. So I started, I bought a camera, bought a microphone. I mean, I started just filming on my phone, bought a mic for like 60 quid. And then just like started interviewing students on nights out.
Yeah, Street Smart, right?
Was called Street Smart.
Now tell us about the premise. I've seen it, but for those that don't know, the premise is you're basically interviewing people
old as time, really.
who are steamboated on a night out.
It's not exactly the most unique of creatives. I mean, subsequently, people have messaged me like with videos of other people doing this at university towns. Like, I can't believe they've ripped off streets. I was like, no, I don't think you understand. Like, since the dawn of cameras, people have been doing this, so anyone can go for it, obviously. And so I remember I had Freshers Week. I thought, right, my last year in Freshers Week, I know there's going to be every night there's going to be something happening. There's going to be people out in the town. So I didn't know how to edit. So on the Monday night, the first night of Freshers Week, I went out, I filmed, didn't know what I was doing. The Tuesday, I woke up, edited the night before, posted it, went out and filmed on Tuesday. So I did that every day. Did that for 6 days, Monday to Saturday. And it was like it was a graph that week. But when I'd done, I had 6 videos that were out on Facebook. Some of them were doing well, some of them weren't. But I had such a better idea as to how I make something. Yeah. And so then over the course of my final year, I just did more and more and more of them and just started posting them on Facebook. I wasn't actually posting them on YouTube at that point. So it was
Facebook originally? It
was Facebook originally because Facebook, there were like places like The Tab and Student Problems that were big pages that would repost things like this. So initially I got a lot of traction from that, which was just posting it on Facebook, and then larger pages just retweeting it or reposting. I can't remember what it's called actually. I think just reposting.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah.
And so all of my views were coming from there.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of like, right, in my last year, I'm just going to make as many as I can. So in my last year, I probably made like 35, 40.
And did you go to other universities, am I right in thinking? When
I left. So when I started taking off and I finished uni, I kind of thought, right, let's just go on a tour. Yeah. It's a self confessed tour.
And who did you go with? Was that
yourself? Just me.
Just you?
Just me and a friend of mine called Coco, who she was like my camera woman and my producer. I mean, we kind of called it producer, but it was just like someone who was along for the ride with me, basically.
Two mates having a laugh.
And she and I went around the country in my car and slept in like, friends' houses. Or we slept on someone in someone's house who watched the vids. They were like, we know you're doing a tour. Do you need a place to stay in Exeter? And I was like, yes, please. It was weird. Like looking back on it, I was like, how did we just do this? This was wild.
A fan's house.
And he wasn't even there. So just me and Coco would just like sleep on the floor of some bloke's room that we'd never really met before.
That does sound a bit bizarre.
Yeah. But like at the time, I was like, of course this makes total sense. I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
So we did a tour. And then it was kind of after that tour, I was like, well, what do I do now? I mean, the tour had done all right, but I wasn't making definitely any money to live off.
Yeah.
And so I started working in a pub for 3 months, and Coco then started to go off and did some production work elsewhere. And she's now doing great. She's working at Lab Bible and has had a great career. But then kind of 2 months after I started working in a pub, I met Zach Alsop, and kind of everything changed.
I want to talk about Zach in a minute, actually, but I just wanted to pick up on something you said there. 2 things I want to ask you is, did the presenting come naturally to you? Because you didn't go to the university TV channel because they had too many presenters. So where did you learn how to become a presenter, or did you not learn it anywhere?
I didn't really learn. I think I've always been a show off.
Right. I think just like the camera.
Yeah, just like the camera performing. I'd done a lot of theatre at school, at uni, as in all of the theatre society plays, and I'd done 3 years at student radio, hospital radio.
So you had learned your trade in
so
that
I'd kind of learned my trade about how to do things, and I realised that my USP was like silly, off the cuff comments, and so I just made sure to make the videos that were that suited that, and the style of it was much shorter. It was only about 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, and the other thing I was going to ask you is, in terms of where you're at now with your career, and we'll come to it in a minute. Obviously, you've had amazing success, but do you feel the fact that you edited your own videos, uploaded them, you helped shoot your own videos, you presented them, did that give you a real skill set and a grasp of all of it? Because I look at where I am and as a presenter now, and the fact that I went through, it was a slow process, but the fact that I was a runner, then I was in an edit suite, then I was directing shoots, operating cameras, it's helped me. I'm not saying I'm the complete article as a presenter by any stretch of imagination, but when I'm doing live TV, having that understanding of how graphics work and cameras operate helps me as a presenter. So do you find that background helps you?
Oh, 100%. I think I've always said to people who are like, oh, how do I get started in social media? Because I think social media is so instant as a consumer. You can get whatever you want at any time.
So much content.
Yeah, so much content. There's an idea or like a thought process that it's also as instant from the other side. To create is also instant.
I know what you mean.
But I was making videos for 3 years and nothing was happening. Like I was kind of slowly learning what I was good at, what I was definitely not good at. But yeah, knowing how to edit. And even now, if there's a case where me and my editor work side by side the whole time, I'm not the one necessarily pressing the buttons, but I know we're talking about, okay, what happens next? What's the flow of the video? And if I do need to jump in, I do. And I think it's so important to have like ideas of every single facet of the process to be able to do it long term.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, actually. Go on, let's talk about Zach then. You were working in a bar 5 months. You met Zach Alsop. Where was chance meeting?
Chance
mutual
meeting.
Friend? What?
Walked past him on the street.
Yeah.
Walked past him on the street, and I sent him a DM. And he had previously had his own channel, the Zach Alsop channel, which was on about 160,000 subscribers. And then he started a new channel with his mate Jamie that was called the Zach and Jay Show, and they were on 30,000 subscribers. So this is the time when him and Jay were on 30,000 subs.
So that's when you met. So he was already established when you met him.
He was established, yeah. So I walked past him on the street. And I actually DM'd him. I was like,
so just to confirm, you walked past him on the street and then slid into his DMs. Doesn't sound awkward at all.
Doesn't sound awkward at all. Okay. And looking back on it, I still to this day do not know why he ever read/responded to the DM. Yeah. But I sent him a DM, and I remember thinking, I need to sell myself and show how I can be of value to him immediately. So I said to him, hi mate, just walked past you in the street. If you're local to the area, let me know. I make videos as well. And then I just shamelessly just plug stats. I was like, I've got X million number of views. I've got X thousand subscribers, 1,000 followers on Facebook. Well, I didn't really.
So this was incorrect information.
It was correct information. It was massaging of the truth. So for example,
so you embellished it a bit.
I embellished it a little bit. Like for example, I was using the numbers that when the tab had reposted some of my videos, I was taking those views as my views.
So technically, you can back it up.
Yeah. And so I sent him this DM, and I woke up the next morning ready to go to work, and I saw just a message saying, "Thanks for this, mate. We actually need a cameraman for a shoot today at the Millennium Dome. Can you be there in 45 minutes?"
Wow.
And I remember just like looking at my phone, looking at my watch, like, yeah, I called in immediately sick from work, and I just absolutely legged it to the Millennium Dome. And the first time I met him, he was being interviewed by the police.
Really?
So I arrived, and there was just like 4 policemen surrounding this guy because he had obviously snuck into so many places. His name was on a watch list, and he was actually there legitimately. He was doing some work with Red Bull. But when he had arrived on site, his face had like, triggered something, and so they were like, "What are you doing here? Who are you?" And I was like, "Hi, I'm Max." He was like, "Oh, sorry about that." And we then filmed on the top of the Millennium Dome with Travis Pastrana, who's like the BMX or extreme sports man and owner of Nitro Circus, and they were doing something on top of the Millennium Dome. And I was like, "What? How am I in this position within the DM to be on top of this like?" moment on top of the Millennium Dome within about 12 hours, just absolutely mad. And that when people say, oh, you got to be lucky in the industry, that was the moment for me that was lucky. But it wasn't just blind luck. I had still bought the equivalent of the lottery ticket by doing the 3 years at Hostel Radio, by making videos already online. So it was an easy yes for him to say, yeah, come on, jump on board. And so then we became good mates. Him, Jay and I became good mates over the course of 3 or 4 months. And then he asked whether I wanted to be in a video, and I was like, absolutely, I do. What
do you think would have happened had you never have met Zach and you hadn't have turned up to the Millennium Dome that day?
I don't know, mate. I really don't know. I would have kept making videos, I guess. And I'm sure that something else would have come along, but that just expedited the whole process of what ended up happening long term so much faster. And then we made a couple of vids together that absolutely blew up and allowed his channel to grow hugely, but also by association, my channel to grow hugely. So our paths were just so interlinked from that moment.
Yeah. It's amazing actually, because we literally have had Sharky sat in that exact same seat talking about how he met Chunks and they built up and started collaborating together. Now, obviously, look at where the Beta Squad are. Yeah. And you've obviously almost said an identical story there about Zach and how almost fate brings certain people together. But to credit to you, you've got to instigate that and you've got to prove to him what you can do. Yeah, because if you hadn't done a good job on that day, he might not have used you again. So absolutely, you must look at yourself in that situation as well.
Yeah, you've got to show immediately. I've always said, if you're trying to get a job with a YouTuber or someone in social media or anyone actually, already showcase what you can do. Make it so difficult for someone to say no, they're not interested. So an example is that if someone said, a guy reached out to me about thumbnail design. He was like, hi Max, I saw a couple of your recent thumbnails. I thought they were great. I thought they could be improved. I've attached a couple of photos of how they could be improved. What do you think? And I mean, she's like, yeah, those are really good points. And it just meant that he took a bit of extra time to showcase what he could do, rather than be like, hey, mate, saw some of your thumbnails. I think you could do a better job. Let me know if you want to jump on a call about it. But obviously, I'm not going to do that. But he showcased immediately what he could do, and now he works with me on my thumbnails. So
that's amazing.
It's stuff like that I think you need to be equipped with when you are cold reaching out to people. And a lot of the time, it's not going to come through. Like 95% of the time, then they're not going to need your services, or they don't want it. There's no need for them to get you on board. But there's also a great story of a woman who was applying for a job at Wagamama's, and she just designed her CV in the style of a Wagamama's menu.
Genius.
And it's just like very small things that show you've gone the extra effort, that show you care. And immediately someone from HR will be like, of course, if I've got 10 people in front of me with CVs, you're obviously going to go for the one with the interesting element to it.
It's amazing, that story, because Jack Mate said something very similar about someone, I think, who works, I could be getting this story wrong, but who works in his graphic design and thumbnails, is someone who was proactive and sent them designs, and it's exactly what you've said. So
completely,
that's great advice for people, that actually showing what you can do and being proactive can get you a long way.
Yeah, and if you're doing a cold email to someone, make it a cold video pitch, because then your personality can come over a lot better. So there's so many different ways that you can kind of make yourself stand out. Now it's kind of talking about how you can stand out in the world of work. But I think obviously I'd done enough to make Zach think, let's get this guy involved in somehow. And so I started working with him.
So let's talk about your growth then after that.
Yeah.
So how quickly did your channel grow? What are we talking numbers wise?
So we did a vid together, which was where I broke into London Fashion Week, pretending to be a fake model. And we to this day don't know why that video did so well, but I think it's now on like 40 million views on a long form video. This isn't a short.
And you don't know why that did well, interestingly.
It was a concept that we knew had done well on YouTube before, like a brilliant creator called Uber Butler had done it about a year or two before. And so we took that idea and changed it slightly somewhat and made it our own and repackaged it and posted it. But we just don't really know why it captured the imagination of people so well. And so they went from about 30,000 subs to about 300,000 subs in the space of a week. I went from 1,000 subscribers to 80,000 subscribers in a week.
That's incredible growth, by the way, because I've spoken to so many influencers, and it's the same even with this pod and projects I've been involved in. A lot of people say that the first growth is the hardest,
it's
right?
So hard.
So you went from 1,000 to 80,000 in a week.
Yeah, in a week. It was the most. It was the maddest week. I was just like opening up YouTube Studio and just seeing the
and you can't
have
seen that amount of growth come in.
Oh no! I remember I said to my dad before we released the Fashion Week video. We'd done the video. It was edited. It was about to go out. I said to my dad, I'm really excited about this. If I can get like an extra 1,000 subscribers, if I can double my subscriber count, God, that would be such a win. And I remember him saying, just like tape your expectations. You have no control over what happens. You've done a good job. It's a learning experience. And then it just went to 80K subs in a week. And
so when you go to 80K in a week, then does that take you to a different level in terms of you feel like you need to work harder, you need to come up with more ideas? Is there more pressure on you then because you've now got an audience of fans that are almost expecting regular uploads?
I think I should have seen. I was looking back at it. It's such a rookie mistake that I made. So I obviously had been grafting with making interview style videos for 2 years and got 1,000 subscribers. Yeah. And then I'd done a story-based video and got 80,000 subscribers. Yeah. And so with those, so after the Fashion Week video, I went back to making interview-based content. Right. When I should have been like, obviously people don't want this. They want stories.
Because they're subscribing for you for that.
They're subscribing for me for that. Yeah. So again, I then, the growth plateaued massively after that because I went back to doing what I'd done previously, which is like, so like, why was I doing that? Yeah. But then it was actually lockdown that caused me to reevaluate, because then I physically couldn't go out and make any videos.
That must have had a big impact on your channel in many ways.
I was panicking.
Were you?
I was panicking because obviously my whole channel had been built off like interactions with the public, and now I couldn't do that, and I didn't know how on earth I was going to make stories whilst confined in my flat.
Was that stressful? It must have been a stressful time then.
It was very stressful. I remember it was probably the lowest I've been as a YouTuber, because I kind of thought I'd had the taste of like, oh my God, it's right there. And then it all just stopped. And I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what my identity was in YouTube. And I got, again, lucky with a series that I did in lockdown where I had a photo frame that I'd been gifted for Christmas a couple of years before with a stock model in it. And I just had been so lazy I hadn't taken out the stock model, and whenever people came around, they always asked me, oh, who's that? And I just kind of got used to being like, oh, I don't know, it's just a stock model. But I then she became a part of the furniture in the flat. And so I then did a series where I tried to find out who this model was in lockdown. I wanted to show, we're all interconnected. Isn't this crazy? And it ended up being this huge series of 3 episodes. I was on like Australian national news about it. And then we eventually found her and I posted that and people suddenly really resonated again with the story-based stuff again. I was like, oh God, what am I doing?
I found it.
I've done this. And so it was then that experience that led me to start doing more videos that are similar to with what I make now, basically.
It's interesting, that story about how adversity or negative situations in life can make you reevaluate and actually can lead to a positive. Without getting too deep, I just wanted to go back on what you said there about how difficult that period was. And obviously, it was a terrible time for loads of people, and there was loads of people going through way worse than what you were going through. That goes without saying. But in terms of, as a YouTuber, you're, I suppose the challenging or the negative side of it is that you are constantly the one that is in charge of your future, your finances, absolutely everything. You're not working for a company that's you're given a salary for. So there must be quite a lot of pressure on you there. And that period where everything stopped must have been pretty difficult mentally.
It's really difficult because I think especially as a young creator at that time, I was 20, 23, 24. You with the success of the Fashion Week video, you suddenly tie your self-worth and who you are so closely to that growth and to that subscriber number. And I think all YouTubers do it, definitely. And it's so difficult, even with the growth I've had in the last, I still find it so difficult to remove myself, detach myself from that and see it more as a job. But in COVID, with it all stopping, I was just kind of like, what do I do? Like, where do I go? Was this the end of the road?
Did it keep you up awake at night?
Oh yeah. I was not a well boy because I was kind of thinking, okay, it's over. You
thought that your YouTube career was over?
Oh, I think my YouTube career was over basically every 2 weeks.
Well, why did you say that?
Because it's you don't have an idea as good as your last one. You think, is this gonna do as well? And in actuality, you never know how well a video is going to do, and it's slightly out of your control how well a video does, because there are videos that I've posted, I was like, didn't think that was going to do that well, and there are other conversely videos that I thought, God, that's a really good video, and they haven't done well at all. So I think that it was a really difficult time because I didn't know. Again, as you say, I was very fortunate to be in a position where I was safe and I was healthy.
Yeah, of course.
But with my work side of things, I was like, what do I do now?
Yeah, worrying times. But well said as well on that. And also credit for you for getting through that, because let's look at your channel now. 3 million subscribers on YouTube.
Bonkers.
I want to come in. I've got so many questions I want to ask about some of your vids. I consume a lot of the content, and there are, bonkers is a good word to describe actually in terms of the entertainment value and where you come up with these ideas. I suppose what I want to know about you is that I look at your content as very unique. Like, it's the ideas that you come up with. There's not many people doing your type of content. You know, there's a lot of streamers, for instance. There's a lot of people do football content. Your content is very rare, and I think that's probably what resonates with a lot of people. How do you come up with the creative? How big's your team? How does that all work? Because some of the ideas, I mean, there's one about a parrot. You're taking a parrot to Vegas to bet for you. I mean, it's just so where do these come from?
Yeah, so the team is full time. It's me, an editor and writer and kind of creative partner, and then a producer.
So that's 4 people.
So there's 3 of us full time.
3 of you full time. But we work for you.
All of us doing so many different roles. We're all mucking in. We're a small team, and
what's the process in the week? So
the process in the week is obviously ideation is super important, and we spend so long on ideation. For the ideation sessions, we get in comedy writers to come in, or just voices from other parts of entertainment. So sometimes theatre directors, sometimes comedy writers, sometimes gag writers, because we are so, title is everything in YouTube. You've got to get them through the front door. So that title, you've got to make the audience almost laugh or understand what they're getting themselves in for before they've even watched the video.
And they've got to physically click on the video.
They've got to physically click on the video. So we're always looking at contrast. Like comedy, from a very structural perspective, is always subverting expectations and juxtaposition and contrast. So with the Vegas video, for example, okay, gambling. Okay, how do you gamble? Okay, you say you speak it and you ask to place a bet. What's the weirdest thing or the most opposite thing that you could imagine how you could place a bet? What speaks? Okay, a parrot speaks. Could a parrot gamble in Vegas? And so it's about trying to take a thing. So we went paintballing. So talking about the topic of paintballing, who would be the weirdest or the funniest person you could bring paintballing? Okay, the SAS. And that's how the videos come together. Right. So it's actually quite a simple process.
Yeah.
But I'm very, very strict with as to what actually gets made. So basically, you've got to say the title, and I've immediately got to be like, yes, I like that.
So the process of brains, because we did it with our show with Saturday Social. We have a team. We have the presenters, the producer. We sit down, we brainstorm ideas. Obviously, we're a TV show that's uploaded to YouTube as well. So we think of titles, thumbnails, what works with what guests, and everything like that. In terms of your brainstorming session, do you think of the title and thumbnail first before you even think about whether you can?
I think I'm definitely thinking about the title first. I think a thumbnail can always be made as good as that can always come slightly secondary.
If you can't see an idea in a title, you won't pursue it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so we always go for we have 3 kind of mantras with an idea. So anyone can bring an idea to the table, but they've got to satiate kind of these 3 things. So stakes. What the stakes? Why does the audience care that you're doing what you're doing? So with Vegas, I could lose lots of money. There are stakes there. And the second one is, how do you stick the landing? How do you finish the video in a way?
The payoff.
The payoff. Yeah. What is the payoff? And is the payoff good enough for the person who has clicked on that video to feel like they've got their value from spending 10 minutes with you? Yeah. And the third one, which I think is arguably the most important, is what is the line they're going to say to their mates down the pub? So
I like that,
because everything is kind of word of mouth these days. Even if you think the algorithm is essentially word of mouth, because the algorithm realizes that lots of people are watching something, that lots of people are enjoying it, so they will serve it to somebody else. Because the algorithm, I always think it's not some abstract being. The algorithm is just people. If people are liking a video, YouTube will give it to more people who will also like it, and it's a bit of a snowball. So with the pub test, with that third test, it's like, okay, can you explain? They've got to fill in the rest of the sentence. Did you hear about that guy that took a parrot to Vegas to bet for him? That works because you get all the information in the video in that one sentence. And so if it can satiate those 3 things, and we can think about what would be in the video, then great, let's go and do it. Let's go and make it.
And on that, I'm looking at some of your videos here. So.
We can do it now. See whether you can.
Come on then. Running for the 2021 mayoral election, you got 6,309 votes, which is incredible. Cooking a ready meal in an active volcano.
Yeah.
Suing your sister for a crime she committed as a child.
Yeah.
I mean, becoming the richest man in the world for 7 minutes.
Yeah.
But having the shortest wedding of all time. I mean, in terms I love that video is one of my favourites, by the way.
The shortest marriage?
The marriage one. I just love, because I was going to say it reminds me of when it doesn't remind me in any way of when I proposed to my wife, if she is listening to this, because it was more romantic than that. But in terms of those ideas, so what's the longevity of that is what I was getting at with you. I mean, how long
can I keep doing it for?
No, from idea to exexecution.
Oh, right.
Is that?
Not
how long.
Well, I mean, that is also a very
that's the next
cogent question. But like, for example, the marriage video. That's a perfect example of what I was saying before. This is like contrast. Okay, marriage. That's for life. How do you have shortest marriage?
You thought of that because I'm right in thinking in your video you said you saw there was a couple in Kuwait that were married for 3 minutes.
For 3 minutes.
Did that instigate a light bulb in your head to go, we can beat that?
So that initially, that was something that we found out after we'd already had the idea, because we'd already had the idea of thinking, okay, we were back to that brainstorming session. It was like, okay, marriages, that's a thing that is for life. That's for the rest of your life. So what's the absolute opposite of that? What's the juxtaposition of that? Okay, get married for the shortest period of time. Then we did a bit of a Google, what's the shortest marriage of all time? We saw that it was in Kuwait. So then that gave us the stakes as something to beat that time of 3 minutes. And that's an example of a video that I love, because that was all within my control. So I could just go out and film that in the process of a day. All I need is to find somebody who would agree to quote unquote marry me, which was weirdly easier than I thought it was going to be.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I had a stag do the night before in Wetherspoons.
On your own?
On my own. Well, I kind of like saddled up to Kev and Kevin and asked whether I could join them for a pint. They're like, what? Fine.
Yeah.
And then on the day, I just kind of went out with the papers that you need needs to sign to be legally married to someone, and just went up to people and was like, hi, I know this is going to sound really weird, but I'm trying to be married for the shortest period of time. I also had the divorce papers or the annulment papers next to me.
And they're legal documents.
They're legal documents, yeah. They are legal documents. And we found this woman who was engaged. And she called up her fiance, who luckily was a fan of my videos.
It's a great scene, this.
So I said to him, look, mate, could you help a brother out here? Could I marry your soon-to-be wife? And he said, fine.
And then there's a great bit where your wife at the time rings her actual fiance.
Yeah.
And he goes, are you divorced? She goes, give you a minute. Or,
he was a bit, I think he probably said yes and immediately put the phone down and realized it probably wasn't the best idea to give his permission. But yeah, that was a video that we made, and it was a short process to make.
So that was
video.
A short process because you could do it in a day.
It was all in kind of my control, whereas cooking something in an active volcano, cooking a ready meal in a volcano, we had to wait for it to be safe to find a volcano and so we waited for about 2 years to wait for a volcano to erupt that was kind of adequate to be able to do this.
So that was 2 years, that video. The filming of that video was 2 years after the idea.
Yeah. Because we knew that
because of the state of the volcano.
Most volcanoes are conical volcanoes, so when they explode, it's very violent and the lava is very fast and it's very dangerous. So obviously we couldn't get anywhere near those. Whereas shield volcanoes are when it kind of like oozes out the ground very slowly. So that is more possible. And the only place in the world that we kind of thought it would be possible to do it in was Iceland. So we waited for 2 years for a volcano to erupt in Iceland and did so, and then immediately legged it out there.
And in terms of because there's obviously a lot of safety risks with that. We don't advise other people listening to this.
No, I wouldn't advise you do it, but
at home, obviously. In terms of the day on that, so let's go back to the wedding one, for instance. Do you storyboard that and actually, because you said that you use script writers occasionally, are the script writers involved in what you're going to speak to the public about, or in that video, is that, because what I like about the video, the essence is it looks very raw and reactive, you don't know what people are going to say. So do you have any script at all for
No, we don't have any script as to what am I going to say, but we do structure the video where, okay, at the beginning it's me planning how I'm going to find someone to marry me. Then it's my stag do, then the day that I'm going to get married to them, and then the divorce. So we just know that those 4 tranches are in there, but then we just go out and film in the location and hope that something happens.
And do you cut that down? I imagine you speak to more
we
people
then we'll cut that down hugely. And I'm lucky that obviously voiceover is a huge part of the videos, and it just allows for the story to just be moved along whenever you would like.
Yes.
You can drop the diegetic sound of what was happening in the moment and just add a bit of voiceover, and then suddenly you're on to the next scene. So that really holds the hand of the audience a lot, as to, okay, well, you've done that bit, you've watched that bit, now you're on to this bit.
It's interesting as well, because you think of a lot of aspects of it. Like in that video, there's a lot of props you bring. You say, I want a stag do, for instance. You say, I want a honeymoon, so you bring a green screen chroma key to pop up, you bring the table. So it does look like there's a lot of thought that goes in. So
there's a little bit like, what's the opportunity for humour, basically? Where are we going to have the funnies?
So there are times where there's months of planning for a video.
And then sometimes it's within, like, we've got to drop everything and we've got to go right now, otherwise this video doesn't get made. So I obviously like the videos that are a short turnaround time, so it means I can post more often. But sometimes there are vids that take ages. Like, we've been trying to convince a billionaire to put me in their will for.
Is that the next video? That's an exclusive you can give us.
Hopefully, it will come out before the end of 2023. I don't know when this is going out.
So the title is "Convincing a Billionaire to Put Me in Their Will."
I convinced a billionaire to put me in their will. Yeah.
And are we going to see that? Is that going to happen?
Hopefully, we've got a meeting planned for next week. So unless the billionaire pulls out, then we've got a vid.
Why would they pull out?
I don't exactly. I know why.
Don't they realise what's in it from them?
Yeah,
absolutely nothing.
It's probably very much on the bottom of their list of priorities.
Great idea for many reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. But they have said, this particular billionaire has said that they will allow me if they can choose what I get in the will, which sounds fair enough. Yeah. So I don't actually know what I'm going to get in the will at this point.
But that's so clickable, that, because there's so much jeopardy involved.
Yeah, there's jeopardy. It's like, how did I convince someone to do it?
And going back to the marriage one again, is like you were signing a legal document with someone. So although you were only married for under 3 minutes, wasn't
like
it?
2 minutes, 25 seconds or something.
She was legally your wife.
She was,
there's a point in the video where you say, well, technically, she could not approve the divorce, then she would potentially be entitled to half of what you
Absolutely.
You own. Yeah, that was a genuine concern.
That was a genuine concern. That was a genuine stakes. And I think she she could have had me by the short and curlies and said, sorry, no, let's draw this out and let's I'll see you in court.
How is she now, by the way? Keep in touch?
We don't actually keep in touch. I actually don't know whether she's got married now. I hope they did, and I do wish them the best. But no, yeah, she could have turned around to me and said, yeah, 50%, please. But she didn't,
very well
luckily.
said. Yeah, in terms of I hope they're doing well. The other video that I wanted to talk to you about is you did become the richest person in the world for 7 minutes.
Technically, yeah.
And that went viral everywhere. So talk to me about that video.
That was an idea that I kind of had from Zach Alsop, to give him his dues. He had been thinking about doing this video for a while, and I said, and he hadn't done it, and I was like, can I please do it? And he was like, yeah, go on then. And so yeah, the concept was, hey, what is a net worth is purely what someone kind of values you at. So I thought, right,
business at.
Yeah. So I started a company called Unlimited Money Limited. I issued, this is all legit. I issued, what was it? 10 billion shares.
On Company's House.
On Company's House.
This was a legal company.
This is a legal company. I issued 10 billion shares. So there were, in the world, 10 billion shares for Unlimited Money Limited. I owned all of them. But at this point, they were worth £0.
Yeah.
I managed to find a woman on the street who would buy one of those shares for £50.
And she genuinely gave me 50
quid
of her money.
Of her money. She gave me 50 quid. She signed, I signed the document that gives that person a share. So she then owned one share of the company. So I then sent off all this information to a valuations advisor who their job is to like look at companies and see how much they're worth. And I said, I could argue that I should be worth 500 billion, because if one share is sold for £50, then all 10 billion shares are worth £50.
Yeah.
Therefore, the entire company is worth 500 billion. I own all of the rest of those shares. So therefore, I'm the richest man in the world. And the valuations company came back, and their opening line of the letter was something along the lines of, yes, but we highly recommend you close this company down because this is the perfect, most textbook case of fraud. And I was like, yeah, I hear you, but
am I the richest man in the world?
And so they said, yes, if you really want that title, yes, you could argue by some metrics that you are the richest man in the world. And then actually the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, did find out about this, and they contacted me and said, what are you doing? And I was like, I promise you that it's closed down the business.
So you had actual communication after the video?
Yeah, they kind of were like,
further comments.
They were like, hey, yeah, you can close that down. And I was like, yep, that's, of course, absolutely.
So were you stressed at that time?
I was a bit nervous. I was a bit worried.
The video went viral, but also that you don't want to get arrested.
But yeah, so I'd already kind of posted the video, and now I'm now used as like the poster boy. I was in the Financial Times the other day as just like, how easy is it to set up a company in the UK? And they just used a picture of me from Getty Images, and it's just me just like, oh yeah, and they're like, this idiot did it. Look how easy. Even this,
if he can do it, anyone can do it.
Anyone can do it. Look at this idiot. And so they weirdly, I'm now kind of the poster child for fraud in the UK.
I shouldn't laugh.
I shouldn't. You shouldn't. But
don't do fraud, people.
No, please do not. I would love to do like a brand deal with the FCA. Just kind of work together with the Financial Conduct Authority. But so that's how technically I did become the world's richest man. And then I think it was just the intrigue of, if I'd posted a video saying, this is why title is so important, if I'd posted a video saying technically became the world's richest man, I don't think anyone would have been interested.
Remind me what the exact title was.
So I think the exact title was, I technically became the world's richest man for 7 minutes.
Right.
Or was it I became the world's richest man for 7 minutes? Either way, if I just put I became the world's richest man, or I technically became the world's richest man, that's not interesting, because obviously everyone looking at that title will be like, well, you didn't, so I'm not going to click on that.
I know what you mean. 7 minutes is definitely in the title.
But for 7 minutes, suddenly adds a level of intrigue where you're like, wait, why? How is it for 7 minutes? So that is where an example of where title is so important, and we're glad that we added that stakes of a time period as well, because it adds stakes and it adds a bit of jeopardy into it.
And all your titles, I read some of them there. I mean, I sued my sister for a crime she committed as a child. I hired a private investigator to follow me around for a month. I cooked a ready meal in an active volcano. I had the shortest marriage ever. I mean, all of these are very clickable titles, aren't they? And the private investigator is another one. So that in terms of that idea, you just fancied seeing...
I just wanted to know what it'd be like if I knew... Like, I was always fascinated by people who were followed by private investigators. I think you'd obviously know that someone was following you.
Yeah.
And so I thought, right, if I set up an experiment where for 30 days, in random 10 of those days out of 30, someone will be following me, I wonder whether anyone would. And at the end, we met in a room with a table, and he gave me a dossier of everything he'd found. And in there were pictures of him sat next to me on the tube.
And I had no idea.
I'd never seen this man in my life. And there was a moment where I was looking straight down the barrel of his camera. I wasn't that far away.
Yeah.
And
genuinely had no idea. So when he's reading the photos, there's a point in the video he's reading photos of you playing football, having a coffee, singing in your local choir. Which I learnt about in that vid.
Big old singer, love my singing.
You had no idea about that?
No idea. I didn't know who he was. I'd never seen him before. He had so much information about me. And it was just quite scary. But really? it was a good eye opener as to like what is possible. I don't think we lead particularly private lives. Anyway, I don't think anything can truly be private.
So that changed your thinking, did it, a little bit?
A little bit. I just kind of accept it. It's like, well, I obviously know this is a possibility if anybody wanted to. So I'm just going to, shrug my shoulders and just get on with it.
Just get on with it, yeah. Going back to what you were talking about with your videos, is there a lot of pressure in terms of, my earlier point was that your videos take a lot of time. There's a lot of travel elements to these. There's a lot of execution. You've just said you hire videographers, you have a team of people, you've got script writers you have to get in. A lot of them you have to apply for a company, you have to get a lawyer in for the wedding, for the divorce, fly to Vegas. There's a lot that goes into your vids compared to what a lot of other content we see on YouTube. Is that the challenge or the stress with your job, that from idea to execution, it sometimes can take 6 months? And I imagine a lot of your fans are like, when's the next vid? When's the next vid? When's the next vid?
It can be frustrating with like production schedules where things just fall through and then suddenly we have to push a whole video for ages. Like we had an idea that I still am going to do, so maybe shouldn't shout about this too loudly, but I want to sneak into a music festival by skydiving in.
Wow.
And we were going to do it last
Glastonbury
year.
Pyramid Stage.
Well, no comment. And
I don't advise that.
No, do not advise that. And we spoke with like stunt teams and coordinators to make sure that it was safe. And we were going to do it. We had it all lined up. And then at the last moment, something meant that we couldn't do it anymore. And so we hopefully going to push this forward to next year. But that was gutting, like knowing a video isn't going to get made for a year because of something that happened a day before we were planning on doing it.
Yeah.
It's just, I actually found out whilst in this building we're in.
Really?
Yeah. I got the email being like, sorry, we can't do it.
How late are you talking about late?
It was the day before. We were going to do it the day after.
So your storyboard, the whole thing was there, scripted it, written it?
Yeah. I guess it's still there for when we do it next year.
Yeah.
Well, we hopefully do it next year. But yeah, so that is gutting, but it's just part of the job. It does happen.
Yeah. Is there also a lot of pressure on the actual video itself to perform? Because you don't upload every day or every week, that if your next video is in 6 months, do you in your head go, I need this to bang?
Yeah. I mean, that's luckily why kind of brands are so integral. Because if I know that the team's like payments are gonna get sorted and the cost of the video are gonna get covered, I've been very lucky that I've done well on YouTube. So I've made a couple of quid from that, and so I've got a nice runway where if I didn't make videos for a while, then I'd still be okay. So that is, but there is pressure that it needs to perform, and like you need to. There's always this idea of growth, and always keep going. So hopefully I can keep coming up with the ideas.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. What are the biggest challenges or any funny stories of things that have gone wrong whilst filming one of your videos? Because I just imagine some of the rushes that you must have for some of these videos.
Yeah, all sorts. I mean, I've had more cease and desist letters than probably your average person.
Have you?
Yeah, it's a lot of legal stuff, which isn't that sexy, but it is quite funny when someone just really unsuspecting just comes out and with a scary letter.
Right. So a few scary letters you've had.
Yeah, quite a few scary letters.
Any mishaps on the filming side of it, on shoot days?
We've had a lot of people think that we're the actual news. I don't know where, and especially my Street Smart days when I was filming like on interviews on Nights Out, they just see like a camera and a light and it's like, it's BBC News. I was like, no. And then they're getting very upset that it wasn't BBC News. But most of the time it always goes it either happens or it doesn't. Like there aren't, and we've been kicked out of a few places, but just other than slaps on the wrist, so like don't do it again. We're normally pretty good. And something that I really want to kind of get across is that with my videos, I don't want it to be punching down in any way. I don't want anyone to lose their job or to kind of be affected because of my silliness and stupidity. So often the targets, if you can describe them as targets, aren't really targets. So if we're like the video, I'm writing "Welcome to Luton" in massive letters next to Gatwick Airport. no one is really actually going to get inconvenienced by that. Like the pilots flying in obviously aren't going to think that they've landed at Luton.
No.
It's just a moment for people in the wind to be like, that's a funny thing.
Yeah, it's a comedy aspect of you.
It's a bit of fun.
Of you and your personality, which brings me lovely on to our next topic, which is comedy. Because also you've just done a tour, haven't you?
Yeah. I did a tour last year. Did the Edinburgh Fringe Festival for a month, which is kind of a bit of a rite of passage for anybody doing kind of an hour of comedy. And yeah, touring is incredible because you get such an immediate reaction to your content and what you're saying. But it can be. It's very challenging. It's quite a lonely experience. It's something that I hadn't really thought about. When you think about musicians touring, it's great. It's band, there's roadies and the crew. There's all big group of you, 20 people going around the country. But with comedy, it's like, right, you've got your kind of technical manager, maybe your tour manager, yourself, and you're just going to regional cities in the UK, sitting in a Costa, doing a show, and then kind of leaving at about 11, and then kind of repeat. So it has huge benefits because like being on stage is such a rush and such a privilege. Yeah. But then also from the flip side, it can be quite difficult. Having said that, I'm planning on doing a world tour next year.
Are you? So you've just done 2021. So you've done Social Butterfly. Yeah, that was a UK tour, right? Going to many locations. So just explain, your next tour is a worldwide, and it's stand up.
It's a show. It's a comedy show.
Okay.
It's not Andrew Schultz or Matt Rife doing just me and a microphone. It's the best way to describe it is kind of like one of my videos, but on stage.
Okay.
So there's story elements to it. There are jokes. There are fun bits, and we've got at the moment the working title is Max Fosh Loophole. So I think I've discovered a loophole that nobody else has discovered before.
Okay.
And the entire 60 minutes of the show is discovering. And
60 minutes.
And I'm currently in the process of one big story, one big video that for the last kind of 2 or 3 months I've been working on it.
Big reveal that's going to tie into the
which is going to be the video, which is going to be the story that I tell on stage.
Wow!
So I've been doing something behind the scenes
for 3 months now, which is basically an idea revealed that regards to a loophole, something you found that you incorporate live.
That I will do, which I will show everybody on stage. I'll kind of show lift the curtain of what I've been up to and the naughtiness I've been doing.
I can tell you're buzzing about that.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
You must get nervous though as well. Though. I mean, doing live comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, if a gag, I'm not saying your gag won't work.
A lot of them don't.
But if one doesn't, Matt, one of the many that you tell, if one doesn't, I mean, well, you must have had one that hasn't landed.
All the time. Like that's what work in progress is for, and you do.
How hard is that?
Oh, that's a tough part of the process. That because you're doing maybe 20 shows a month to like 30 people, and you're just trying the material. Like, is this any good? Where are the bits that the audience love it, and where are the bits that they really don't like it? So when you get on stage, when I'm doing the actual tour, I'll be pretty confident in the quality of the show by then. We're still just in the writing stage, and I'm working on it with some comedy writers and some directors as well to try and craft this into the best thing. Maybe some magicians as well. So there's all sorts.
So it's quite a unique show then.
Oh yeah, it's a really unique show, and something that I think people will be pleasantly surprised by. But yeah, we're hoping to go to North America, Northern Europe, Australia, 25 dates in the UK, hopefully big show at the Hammersmith Apollo. So come on down. Wow. Well, I should say the Eventim Apollo.
Wow. And is your fan base, I imagine it is quite global because it's YouTube, your audience. So would you be as confident sending out a venue in North America as you would be in London?
Not as confident. I think in Australia I would be. So like my top 5 cities are like London, Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, New York.
Wow.
So like 3 of my 5 biggest cities in the world, where my audience is Australia.
Amazing.
So I'm really excited to go down there and to do some shows there, because I know that speaking to some of the guys like the fellas who have been down there and the Beta Squad boys, like they said it was just absolutely wild. Yeah. So I'm excited for that.
And we've seen, as you said, the likes of them Beta Squad who've gone to Australia and actually had huge numbers of people watching them.
They had like a police escort, I think. So I don't think it'll be like that level, but just if I can sell just a few tickets, I'll be super happy.
I needed a police escort too. There you go. There's your next title.
That's a good idea. I took a police escort to my mum's.
20% of the ad revenue. Cheers, mate. Yeah. Speaking of Sidemen and speaking of Chunks and Beta Squad, it does bring me nicely on to the Sidemen charity match, of which you became a viral sensation.
Yeah, what a
For
moment.
those that didn't watch, obviously Mark Clattenburg booked you.
Yeah.
You revealed the Uno reverse cards.
Yeah.
Uno reverse card, easy for me to say. Planned?
Planned.
Clattenburg?
You
and Clatter's good mates?
Yeah,
tell me about the behind the scenes.
I mean, it was very, very much planned. I definitely had, obviously, the Uno reverse card in my shorts from one of those like writing days that we had. We knew that the charity match was coming up. I knew that I had to, like, you've got 20, well, you've got 30 of the biggest creators in the world who are all trying to get their clip, their moment, like their thing from the charity match. It's such a big event. So everyone there is trying to do something.
Yeah.
So I thought, how do I do it like that's very me and very in my style? And so we came up with the idea of the Uno reverse card. And I realized in the first half that it wasn't that easy to get booked in a charity game because it's not really that, it's not the Manchester Derby. I was trying. I was flying all over the place. And then at half time, I went up to Clattenburg. I was like, look, Clats. Called him Clats. Clats. I was like, Clats. Second half, I'm going to make a challenge, right? No matter how bad it is, I need you to give me a yellow card, please. And he was like, why? And this is one of the lowest moments I had in my career. I then pulled out of my pocket an Uno reverse card to Mark Clattenburg. He looked at me as if I was absolutely mental. He's like, what? I was like, I'm then going to show this to you whilst you're holding the yellow card. He's like, why? I said, it's a meme.
Does he? He's never played Uno.
Well, I think he has, but I don't think he understood the reason why I wanted to do it in that moment. And he said, sure. He then said, don't get another yellow. I was like, no, I won't.
Doesn't matter because I've reversed it. You're not getting the gag here, Mark. Yeah. Just go with it.
Just go with it, Mark. So he kind of just said, fine. And so in the second half, I was sliding around the place, and eventually I saw Mini Minter with the ball. I was like, right, I don't care what happens, I'm taking you out. And so I took him out, heard the whistle go, but I realized Mark wasn't giving me the yellow. So I then, if you look back on the clip, I then shout at him, Mark, and I brandish the card gesture to him, and that's when he remembers, oh yeah, to get out the yellow card. And just he played such a brilliant part in that because he stood there with the yellow card up for so long.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
And just was this silhouette of referee with yellow card. And as I was saying to people afterwards, I don't think I could have made that shot, that framing any better.
Really good point, actually, because even on big matches, because of the amount of cameras that you have, getting both of the cards clean in vision in cameras.
I didn't know. I also didn't know where the camera was. I didn't know where the camera was, but where we were on the pitch, just again, one of those lucky moments, where we were on the pitch, him holding it for so long, I was inside his arm. I could bring up the Uno. You got all the information you needed in that one frame, and then it just flew. Like by the time I got off the pitch, I didn't know how it had been received because in the stadium, people didn't realize what had happened.
Yeah, do you know what? It's interesting you said that. I was in the stadium, and I don't recall it happening in the stadium. But then afterwards, I just remember it going bang, bang, bang. I don't know. It might have been whether I was watching that period or not because it was we were moving a lot and stuff. So I don't remember watching it, but I do remember. For the days to come, it was like one of the moments of the game.
It was huge. It was absolutely. It was ESPN, Sports Center. It went global, and I think because Uno is such a global sport, or global Uno the sport. Uno is such a global game that everyone knows what that. It just you don't need to speak English to understand
Loads of footballers play Uno as well. On the coaches.
Do
they? Yeah. The Spurs Tottenham had a Uno league table in the changing room where they used to play it in. So a lot of players are familiar with Uno,
Oh, right. If I just need one player to do it in a Premier League game.
I mean that's different level of it. Imagine that. Get onto him.
Yeah.
Kevin De Bruyne, just Uno reverse.
Hyun-Min Son, mate. There you go. I'll put this in your shorts. I'll give you the card. So yeah.
Yeah, but going back to an earlier point you meant about your videos, sometimes you know if a video is going to bang or you don't, or they do and they don't and stuff. Did you know at that point how big that would become?
I hoped that it might be something that people spoke about. Oh, did you see that when he did that? I didn't expect it to be the picture from the match, and hopefully it's secured my place in next year's charity match. Am I right, boys?
Oh, clever! There
Come
we go.
on, guys!
What he's done that well there is looked at all four cameras.
Yeah,
so
I don't know
exactly.
Got
it on one of the
I don't know which one to do it
to.
To.
A nightmare now doing that.
I don't know whether they're even doing another match, but I'm just going to put my name into the hat immediately. Say, come on, get me in.
Big Buzz playing in that. I imagine.
Oh God, it's the closest thing you can to be a professional footballer, not being a professional footballer.
Yeah,
there is nothing like it, and so thank you very much to all the guys and everyone involved for making it happen.
Well said. We always end with a few quick fire questions, Max. So
okay.
Got a few questions that I want you to get your thinking cap on for. Best video you've ever made?
Probably cooking a ready meal in an active volcano.
Why?
I just think that we just did something different from the storytelling perspective. It was the most epic. It was the one I was most excited about, and it was the finished product that I thought, yeah, that's great.
Worst video?
I made a video that was entitled I wrote the world's biggest dad joke, which is when I got a projector and projected a dad joke onto the Angel of the North. I remember it was something like, I can't feel my hands on the Angel of the North. And we were like, this is hilarious. And we like snuck a projector onto the hill. We went at night, we posted like, this is amazing. Because of the light pollution around Newcastle and Gateshead, no one, it couldn't be seen from the road.
No one saw it.
No one saw it.
And I imagine seeing it is an important part.
Is an important part of the video. So I remember we took a picture and had to like alter that picture so much to make it look impressive on Instagram or in the video.
So it's pointless having the projectors.
Yeah, genuinely, it was pretty pointless. So that was a low moment.
Sorry to bring it up again.
Yeah, traveling back and forth to Newcastle in a day just to do that was pretty grim.
Okay, next one. Best YouTuber, most talented YouTuber in the space. Do you think?
Oh, there are so many, and I think it's difficult to boil them down into individuals. But there are creators that I love from so many different facets. Yeah. I kind of keep banging on about him because I love him so much. A guy called Bo Miles, who's an Australian creator. There's Ed Pratt, who's a unicyclist. He unicycles around the world. There's a guy called Sam Dawson, who's only got about 4,000 subs, but he's amazing. He's all about the process of making videos, and so I always love when I find a creator that pops up like, yes, you've got it. And so those creators are great.
Fair enough. Funniest person you've worked with?
Funniest person I've worked with. Stephen Tries is definitely out there.
A few people have said that.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. He's
quick.
He's just such good value on a set. Like, if you need something that's funny, then he will immediately come out with something that's good. I've had the funniest times with Zach Alsop.
Yeah.
Calix, I think is great. Will Ennie, I think is great.
Yeah, good.
So I think almost anyone in the UK is, you get them on camera and you're gonna have a good time.
Okay, and best moment in your career. So not best. I know we've done best vid, but best moment. The moment that you've been the most proud of things that you've achieved, would you say?
I think I know. It was when I did sold the London Palladium for a show, which was 2,000 people.
Wow.
Doing a show in front of that many people and like bowing at the end of the show and I was sobbing on stage.
Oh, wow.
I looked away.
Quite emotional.
Yeah, it was so emotional because it was a show I'd worked on for so long, and there's 2,000 people in a venue that I had grown up watching comedians do their specials in.
That's
so like
powerful,
Jack D, who I was a huge Eddie Izzard, and the Royal Variety performances at the London Palladium, and being able to play that show, my own show, to 2,000 people. Finishing the show knowing I'd done a good job, it was just this moment of like utter like relief and kind of everything just poured out, including a lot of tears.
Beautiful story that. And just finally, I just want to know ambitions for the future. So what does next year hold for you? Anything you can reveal? You've sort of dabbled
tour. So we want to do like more vids, obviously keep the upload schedule good on the vid side of things, but tour the world with a new show and just keep making, as long as I've still got a job, as long as you guys are still watching, I'm very, very grateful and very, very happy. And also a couple more appearances on Saturday Social, please, Smithy.
Love that. I'll sort that out. Yeah. Great that you plugged my show as well. Thank you, mate. I'll give you the tenner later. And just finally, advice for people. I know I said finally for the last question, but I do always like getting advice. And obviously, it was amazing hearing the stories of people that you've met, like Zach and stuff. I just wondered, advice for people that wanted to not become the next you, but follow in your footsteps, maybe, what you'd have to say.
Understand what you're best at, but actually also understand what you're not good at, and then just really work in it and try to be the best person in your field. There's always talk about the algorithm and what's YouTube looking to do and shorts coming through and extra long form content, but there will always be a position for the best content in any niche, in any category. So just focus on making the best thing that you possibly can and have no ego, constantly giving your work to other people. Where are you bored? Where are you kind of thinking that this could be improved? So that's what I'd say.
Max, brilliant advice. And thank you so much, mate, for giving up your time. I learned a lot on that episode and had a good laugh along the way as well. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Cheers.
Top man.